Welcome everyone to tonight's coverage of the second practice session of the 12 hours of Daytona here on the Platinum Racing League channel. At Daytona, of course, again, track temps are better than yesterday. Yesterday we had 53 degrees track temp, which is, yeah, it wasn't good for the amount of people out on track, let's say it like that. Today, the practice is a little bit later into the day, of course, in iRacing. So I think today it is scheduled to get dark. If we get to that with the broadcast, that is the question. But yeah, welcome everyone. Today I will be joined as well by my lovely co-commentator Jake Smelly. Jake, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone.
Well, Jake, we have, of course, we've had a lot of cars out there yesterday. But there is a rule for every car that they need to turn their laps that you're going to tell us about. Right?
Yeah.
You know them, right?
The rule you're on about, sir.
Okay, well, the rule is that every team has to drive a certain amount of laps in order to even get the right to compete in the sessions. So as we get our first time on the board as well for Chroma Motorsports, it's Tono Ordieres in that car. Let's take a look on board with him. Here we go. There he is. He sets our first time with a 1:35.025. Yesterday we were into the 1:34s. So, but of course, with the track,
Starting lap time then.
yeah, definitely,
Still doing low 135s.
yeah, but of course, yesterday we had track temps that were at 35 or 53 degrees. So, yeah, of course, the lap times are going to be a lot slower. You really want to be in the ideal track temps. You want to be down into the 1:32s. That is where the really fast guys will be, I think, come race day.
Yeah, definitely. Daytona's a tricky one though, especially with turns like turn 1 and the bus stop chicane. If you miss your braking point in there, you're either off track or spinning.
Yeah, and just to guess, how many times are we going to see drivers just run wide as we see Nuno Vinagre out on track as well? Someone we didn't see yesterday, so new to the track, I think.
Yeah, probably. I mean, he's running there the Lamborghini GT3, which is a nice car to look at and a nice sounding car.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, probably we're going to see like at least 5 times in the stream someone will go wide at the bus stop chicane or turn 1, because those are the two trickiest parts of the track where you're coming either off the oval or you're coming into an oval. So it always seems at them points that drivers seem to make their mistakes with the change in elevation. So we'll have to see throughout this session, but I'm pretty sure those are going to be the main parts where we're going to see drivers make mistakes, especially come race day as well.
Yeah, well, it is a different. Just turn 1 is different to all other corners or every other corner I have experienced on iRacing. It's just such a tricky one. You drop down from the banking, which is already difficult enough on its own, and you have that elevation change, and then with that elevation change you have like the amount of just steering lock you can put in without locking up is also really something that you have to get used to.
I mean, it's a very oversteery corner as well, especially in these LMP2s. GT3s are a bit easier because they have traction control, but in the LMP2s especially, we will see a lot of drivers locking up or spinning at turn 1, because that's a very, as you said, difficult corner to get right.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not only turn 1 that is difficult. It is turn 2, I think, or after the S is the horseshoe. It's one that you can easily get into and do it right, but doing it perfect every time for 12 hours long is going to be so difficult. And here, horseshoe number 2, because I think the first one is called International Horseshoe.
I think so.
And this is National Horseshoe then, I think. So, but yeah, it just the infield is so tricky. How Which way do you go, you think, with car setup? Because you want the straight line speed, while I think Tono is down to the 134s already. So that tells you how much the track temp was involved in everything yesterday. But yeah, which way do you want to go with the setup, straight line speed and cornering speed wise?
Well, it's probably a medium kind of downforce track, to be honest, because you've got, although some teams may even run high downforce, because you've got the infield section, which is very difficult if you've got low downforce on, because if you've got low downforce, you've got basically no grip through the corners. So if you run the high downforce, then you've got corners through the infield, but you're also losing time on the ovally bits and the straights. But if you run low downforce, you've gained where the high downforce guys will lose time, you're going to gain time on them. So it's a very difficult one to go with setups. But I would probably say somewhere around the medium downforce would probably be ideal for this track, considering the infield bit and the parts of the oval that we go onto.
Yeah. If you had to choose, I mean, while 50/50 Brett is in the chat, evening. He says evening. Of course, welcome to the stream, everyone. Feel free to pop some questions in chat, and Jake and I will answer them or talk about it. And yeah, we'll see. Of course, a lot of interesting things will happen, but when we have time, we will make time for you, of course, to answer some questions. But which way would you rather go if you had to choose? Would you go with a car that is faster in a straight line but slower in the corners, or a car that is faster in the corner and just more stable in the corner but slower on the straight?
I'd probably go faster on the straight, considering how many straights there are in this track and the oval. It's not just the straight line speed, Dan, it's the oval parts of this track that we have. And if you have high downforce on that, you are going to get nowhere on those parts. So, especially in multi-class racing that we've got with Platinum Endurance Racing, in Platinum Endurance Championship, I would probably go with the low downforce because of the oval bits mainly.
Yeah, well, 50/50 Brett says that he raced low downforce on Daytona, and well, he said that. Well, I'm gonna read it. For Daytona 24 hours, we ran very low downforce, as the infield is very low speed. Downforce isn't necessary. Well, he has a point there, but I think if you run in an LMP2, international and national horseshoe is very, very tricky and very, very high speed still. And I think you do notice it considerably if you do run that higher downforce. But coming back to what I said, is I would rather have the lower downforce, and that is just, why is that? Because you're gonna go, like you said, nowhere on the straights if you run higher downforce, and overtaking is a big part of racing. And how are you gonna overtake someone if you can only stay in the slipstream from them and not overtake them, you know? So I would rather go with the lower downforce set to overtake them and just lose a little bit in the corners. In the corners, it is way easier to keep someone behind you than it is on the straight.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because corners, you can outbrake, you can break either later than them, or you could bit, not aggressively obviously, but you can cut them off a bit and go very defensive in corners. Whereas on straights, if you don't have the speed or the downforce setting right, you are just a sitting duck.
Yeah, well, the thing is, in a corner, there is an ideal line, and if you do not have that ideal line, you're gonna lose anyways. The thing is, do you have the speed that is still able in the corners to keep that minimum speed up, to not give the driver who's gonna try and go around the outside the advantage? Because if you can even give him or keep yourself just a little bit of that advantage, he's never gonna be able to go around the outside or anything. So as long as you then keep the inside, that is the ideal line. He's not gonna get past. But on a straight, there is no ideal line. Of course, the shortest line is the bottom line here at Daytona. But once you get into that slipstream and you're slow in a straight line, he will fly past you no matter what.
Yeah, no matter if you start ripping parts of your car off and throwing him at them, they won't. They'll get past you still.
Yeah, well, an interesting comment from 50/50 Brett once again. He says teams will be using very different setups, which will be strong at different points throughout the stint. And that is it really, and I think you see that with the different car brands we have as well. Porsche is strong in one part of the track, BMW is strong in another part of the track, but Lamborghini is strong in, again, a whole different part or a whole different section of the track. And I think that is the amazing part about racing in cars that have a BOP but still handle differently, because you have your own parts on the track where you as a manufacturer are stronger. And I think that adds to the experience.
Definitely it does, because if you're this is why I love multi-class racing, because you've got these different manufacturers, you've got different classes all racing for the same part of the track, and it's just so fun and thrilling to watch and to be a part of. But when you've got different manufacturers racing, it does annoy you a bit sometimes, because you know you've got the Porsches that'll handle better in certain parts, whereas maybe the Lamborghini or something will handle better in a different part. As we go to the Lamborghini now of SR Technic. But yeah, especially with these LMP2s on track as well, they're all going to be like the LMP2 will be better in a straight line. There is no question about it. But especially with the GT3s though, won't they? They'll be quicker than the GT3s in a straight line.
Yeah.
So I feel that it's better that we have this multi-class racing, because then no matter what car you use, the other guy's going to have an advantage over you somehow.
Yeah, and that is, I think, the thing we see a lot with just multi-class racing, and we topped on it like yesterday with James as well, and just the traffic management as well, and he called it the middle class syndrome, that the middle class is always the most difficult class to be in, as I've shared my screen for you so you can watch when it happens live.
Oh, and that's a spin there from the number 444 of SR Technic. Probably hoping that he doesn't do that on race day.
Yeah. Well, like I said, traffic is going to be a big part of managing that. And how would you think going about that with different car manufacturers? Does it matter really, or is it just GT3 is GT3 and you know it's the same for everyone?
Well, if you're in LMP2, it's going to be no difference because you've got both classes to lap.
Yeah.
But GTEs will definitely notice it, probably, because if you're in the Porsche RSR, which is an amazing car, I love it to pieces, and if you're going up, say, a BMW M4 GT3 or something, you're going to be quicker. Even though you're a GTE, you're still going to be maybe the BMW may have some slight advantage over you in one part of the track than another, because obviously the Porsche GT3R is similar, not exactly the same because obviously they're different classes, but very similar to the RSR. So where we see the Porsche GT3 be quick, we're also going to probably see the Porsche RSR be quick in the GTE class version of it.
Yeah, and of course, not only that, but strategy is a big part of it as well. And I think, well, you know, what are they going to do? Because when I noticed when we did go on board with Tono here, is the amount of steering lock he put on going just onto the banking. I will point to that in a bit again when we go through there. As you see now, traffic. Let's see how he handles this, because it is interesting to see. He does not fuel safe, he does not pull the clutch, because that is something you can again do. But look how much input he's putting. That cannot be good for the front tires.
He's going to wear them down quicker than you can run out of a store. But yeah, he's there. That is a lot. I think they need to maybe go and think about that setup, because that is he's putting a lot of steering lock on for some of the corners here that you don't need to.
Yeah. And well, as we will see in a second now, we'll get to turn 6, the exit of the infield onto the banking, and you can just see how much lock he's putting on. See, is he going to do it again? Just see the amount of luck he's putting in, and that
but
cannot
I also
be good.
feel like that may be him not knowing the track as well, because you can go a bit wider than he's gone there. He's took a very tight line through that corner.
The tighter line is faster though.
Yeah, but you can, if you want to, take a bit of a wider line.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it looks like his turning point, or his turning in point, is a little bit off as well. He's turning a little bit too early, it looks like, to really save the tires on race day. But hey, this might be a quali run, but looking at I think the strategy he's running right now, this is a 9-lap stint, so I do not think that this is a quali run.
We'll see what time he puts on the ball in a minute.
His last lap time was a 1:34.91. What is this going to be?
1:34.6. So that was probably not a quali run, but maybe a quicker race run.
Yeah.
Oversteer there through that corner. Maybe the tyres are already starting to go.
Yeah, well, the guys from Platinum Racing Team, of course, yesterday they were very busy. But yeah, I think Karuma Motorsport wasn't there yesterday, so looking at them putting in the 1:34s already, I think it's gonna only get cooler from now on, and that's gonna be good for the lap time. To see them come down a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, definitely. As iRacing likes to do it, the cooler the track gets, the better the lap times are.
Yeah, sometimes it is a bit unrealistic.
Yeah.
50-50 Brett once again says something about the setups. Going back to the setups, I think the most important part is that the drivers are comfortable with the setup. And the speed isn't as important, as you can't win the race if you're not there at the end. Well, that is something which we touched on yesterday as well. Which way do you want to go? Because that is difficult. You want to have a bit of speed in that car. Because you know as well, Jake, being a racer, the safer the car, the less speed you're most likely gonna get out of it.
Yeah, definitely. You want to be on that limit that the car can do, even through corners. Just want to be on the limit. If you've got a safe car, I can guarantee it's not going to be a fast car. You want to be pushing the car. You want to see what it can do. But if you're running safe setups, you may finish the race, but you're not going to be quick. You're not going to be competitive with the top teams. Whereas if you run that car on the limit that it can, you're going to be up there and trying to fight with them.
Yeah, and you know, we said it yesterday as well. If you are in a Pro-Am team, do you go differently about it than you do with just the Pro team? Because the Pro team, they have all Pro drivers, and normally the Pro drivers, they are used to just changing their driving style to each other, so they can cooperate with different setups, and they make the setup so that they're all at a similar pace. But when you have an AM, do you want to favor the AM so he can gain a second out of the car, or do you want to favor the Pro so he can gain half a second out of the car, but the Pro is gonna drive more? Which way do you go?
I'd say the one that's the quickest, because then that can put you in a very good position.
Well, that's interesting, because James yesterday said that he would rather go for a comfortable AM than a comfortable Pro, because a Pro is someone who drives these cars for a living. And of course in iRacing everyone can drive these cars for a living, but it's just the faster guy. So the thing really is, I think, is the AM a second slower than the Pro? Doable. Is the AM 2 seconds slower than a Pro? You want to be looking to get that AM as close as possible to the Pro. If you have to bring the Pro down 2/10 for the AM to gain a second, that is, I think, overall faster.
It could potentially be.
Well, I think in a second we will go on board, Jake, and you will give us some information about the track when we do an onboard lap with Thomas Piba.
Yeah.
We'll have, of course, to wait before he gets to the start-finish line for you to properly start it. But yeah, well, an interesting track, and you're gonna hear from Jake in a minute time, and he's gonna give you all the information you need to know about this Daytona circuit, because it looks like a very easy track to drive, but trust me, it definitely isn't.
Not. It is not. If you think this track's easy, mate, you're wild.
It is, on average, is easier than the other tracks, but this track has so many different challenges that,
Especially with elevation change though as well. Like if you're going from oval to normal racetrack style back to oval, so it's very very difficult with that with the elevation change.
yeah. Well, I think it's about time for you, Jake, to give us some commentary on the lap around the Daytona circuit.
Here we go then. Coming up to the start finish line. You want to run a bit wide for turn 1. Coming in on them brakes quite nicely. Running into turn 2, then quite an easy corner to lose it, as we've got the Lamborghini just in front of us. He's taking a good line through here. You want to stay to the left here, cutting across. You can go second gear for that, but he's in first because he's got traffic. Slight oversteer correction there, so that is definitely not ideal. Coming up to the fast left-hander here. I'm not very good with corner names, so ignore that. You want to stay quite left over here. He's taking quite a tight line through there, as shown, as he has a lot of understeer coming out of the horse hairpin. I don't know. On to now coming up to the first part where you're back onto the oval. Loads of oversteer there. That is not what you want to happen, as we want to run as close as you can to this yellow line that you see here. You don't want to be on it. You want to be as close as you can to it, as I think you may be on it a bit. You want to come right over to the right hand side here, as it's just a normal straight, and you want to get hard on the brakes. Third gear you can run through here in the LMP2. It's gone very wide there, and that is definitely not a good run. Coming back onto the ovals, you want to stay, as I said, very on the edge of that yellow line, because that's the apron there that they use. They call it the apron in IMSA as well, but also in NASCAR. Staying on the left as he's doing here, it's fastest line, and then you come right round, sticking very close to that apron, coming wide out, and there is a lap of Daytona for you.
Like we said, definitely not an easy track, but yeah, very well said all that, Jake.
We saw quite a few oversteering moments, so I think that was very good evidence that it's definitely not an easy track.
Yeah, of course, well, on most tracks you have the camber as well. Even though if it's just a little bit, you will have the camber helping you into the corner. But what I saw there was just, it's of course the International Horseshoe. It's so off camber, and with traffic, like we saw, he was running in first gear. I would never ever do that, because the amount of oversteer you get is just not good for the tires. In qualifying trim you can do that, but you also have more speed, so I would still rather stay in second gear to just minimize the oversteer on exit and just maximize the run you can get onto what is effectively a longer straight with a left-hand kink in it, because that kink is just full throttle. So I do count that as sort of a straight.
Yeah, definitely. As we see Platinum Racing Team Blue here in the BMW. Not Platinum, sorry, ignore the blue. it's the BMW, and I saw B and it got me confused. Oh, as there is a blip there.
But it says LMP2, but I think that is just changed teams, but something in the in SDK, which is not quite right.
Speaking of LMP2, yeah, I just saw one coming up behind them, I think. Oh no, maybe that was the Porsche.
That could be. That could also be Andrew Fields. Well, Andrew, from now on you are in the LMP2 field. Jake has decided.
Yeah.
What do you
Porsche
think?
looks very close to LMP2, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like, just.
Well, what do you think of the liveries? We've had some very cool ones, I think.
I definitely like this Field's Academy Motorsport livery. I quite like the kind of like. Hang on, when we see it sideways, the kind of pixels that they've done towards the end. I quite like that idea of the livery, and then just the black swoop, and then you've got the white just on top. I think it's very nice livery, especially the black and yellow.
Yeah, definitely very nicely done by the guys. Oh, that is not supposed to be there. Well, of course, in a GT3, it's vastly different than it normally is in an LMP2. The braking points are somewhat still at around the same mark, but do you not just want to eke them back a little bit in the race than what you do in qualifying?
Yeah, definitely. Well, as qualifying's always known for being the limit of the car and the track and the driver. Well, not the track doesn't move, but the limit of the car and the driver. So if you're running the race as qualifying, you may make many mistakes throughout the race, because this is a 12-hour race that we've got on Saturday. So if you're running qualifying laps for the entire thing, your tyres are going to be gone, your fuel's going to be gone. Granted, they pit, but still, you may not make that pit window, because during endurance racing, you want to go for the longest time possible. You want to save tyres and save fuel. But if you're doing quali runs, which is the limit of the car and what it can do, then you're guaranteed to maybe lock up or make a silly mistake. So with qualifying, you want to extend your braking zone by a few meters, but as you said, Dan, you want to, in the race, you want to bring them back a few just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, because of course tire wear is such a big thing in the race as well, and I think that just dialing back and just driving a little bit easier on the car, because I experienced that myself last weekend in the 6 hours of the Glen as well. I went out and I came back into the pits after one stint and I said, okay, I'll go for a double. I did the double, and I had to pit 7 laps early. My front left tire was at 11%. My teammate goes out, he comes into the pits first stint, his tire wear is 75%. I was like, how has this happened? Because
Well, that's the thing, because sorry to interrupt, if you do run runs like I was saying, you're wearing the tires out. In qualifying, you're not going for 12 hours of qualifying. You're going for maybe maximum an hour qualifying, which these guys are doing an hour of qualifying. So you're pushing the car as much as you can in that hour. Whereas during the actual race, you want to be conserving that time. You don't want to rush through and think, oh, I'm going to finish it the quickest I can. But speaking of quickest, Platinum Racing Team GT3 is so quick that they've joined the LMP2 category.
yeah. I don't know what is exactly wrong with that, but trying to fix it.
Yeah. As I was saying, when you're in qualifying, you're pushing the car as much as you can. And if you keep pushing the car as much as you can for 12 hours, and stints of maybe, these guys will probably be doing, what, 2-hour stints? 2-3-hour stints, probably.
Yeah.
And if you're pushing the car for 3 hours, your tyres are going to be gone by your first stint. That you can say bye-bye to lap times on position and everything. Because although you may be gaining on the guys ahead, you got to think about it in the long run. During an endurance race, that's all you got to do. You got to think about the long run. You got to forget what's happening in the past or now. You know, if you lock up into one corner, you got to forget about that. You got to think about the long run. How is this going to affect it? And if you're pushing quali runs throughout the entire 12-hour race, I guarantee you may be quick, you may be setting fastest laps, but
Look at that.
you won't be anywhere near. As we get
Back to
Platinum Racing
GT3
Team
they go.
GT3, they've been back demoted. But yeah, if you're pushing the car for 12 hours, you're gonna have to pit so early than the other guys, and that's where strategy really comes into endurance racing, because the other guys will be thinking about their tires and fuel, and if you're doing quali runs, mate, you can say goodbye to track position, because you will be pitting every half an hour or an hour, which the other guys will probably be doing 2-3 hour stints, and they may be keeping their tires up for that long, and fuel will obviously be the limiting factor. But yeah, as we see LMP2 getting into the mixture in bus stop, this could be interesting during the race.
This is not called bus stop anymore. This is called the Le Mans chicane.
Ah.
Since well, it has been like that since the 24 hours of Daytona beginning this year, but I only got to know like when the 24 hours of Le Mans was on. Because the first chicane at the Circuit de la Sarthe is called the Daytona chicane. And I thought, well, why is it? So I did my research and I came back to the conclusion that IMSA and the WEC are going to work together. So FIA WEC. So the FIA and IMSA are going to work together. And that is why the first chicane at the Circuit de la Sarthe has been called the Daytona chicane, and the bus stop here has been called the Le Mans chicane. So
It's very useful information and interesting, to be honest.
yeah, so that
What
is
was
why
it called originally, the Daytona chicane?
just bus stop.
No, the Daytona chicane, the one at
Oh,
one
okay.
of the one.
yeah, you see that's where I mix it up. If we have Alexander Vogta in Vogta in the
Oh, that's a mistake from the LMP2 of Eisbach. Is that how you say it?
Eibach.
Eibach Sim Racing Team 3.
They're quite big in real
As
racing
we've-
as well.
Yeah, as we've seen there though, Dan, very easy mistake. Don't know if we can get a replay of that maybe. Just very easy to make, just locking up, going into that left-hander. Because that is going straight back onto the... Here we go, we got a replay. So coming down, and just too much speed.
Oh, we
that's
had
a
an
different
incident
one.
before.
As we said there, like, if you carry way too much speed through that corner, you're not going to make it, as we've seen. But that corner, you want to be very good. But the mistake that we saw, I don't know which corner that was at.
I can't sadly see that because that is not on my my incident or my event recording.
But we saw though, didn't we, that he just locked up or something and he just went straight on.
Traffic
which
man.
is very, yeah, traffic. That could be actually an interesting one that we see during the race on Saturday. How traffic affects these guys during here at Daytona. As we see,
Oh, he's long gone. Another one taking taking a shortcut.
yeah, he's just going to invade some holiday makers in the infield.
Is he hungry as well?
Yeah, he might be the same as the Porsche. Has he jumped into the BMW from the Porsche from yesterday? I think he has. Let's go back to live footage now. But yeah, that is actually quite a nice livery, the red, white, and black.
Yeah.
On that Porsche.
Well, we were at the point where we were talking about the Daytona chicane. I think it was just first Mulsanne chicane. It didn't really have a name. Like the second chicane doesn't really have a name on Le Mans.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think just first chicane, second chicane, as we have our first GTE out on the track.
Yeah, it's nice to see GTE. Hello, welcome to the practice session.
Well,
Good
the
to see
thing
you.
is with GTE in real life as well, the class, because you can see it, the class sadly is it's starving, if
Yeah.
I may say that, because there are the drivers in it are just scarce, so there are not a lot of drivers still in it. And in real life as well, manufacturers are not building them as much anymore because they cost way too much money for the amount that they get raced. And for
Really?
yeah, and for just the people who buy them to race with as well, they're way too expensive. So GT3 has really been the follow-up from this. So like we see next season in PAC as well, GTE will be gone and the GT3 and LMP2 field will have been made bigger.
You know
So-
what I'd like to see down in the future of the pack?
Yeah, go
Maybe
on.
an LMP1 clash, because we've got the LMDHs coming in, so if iRacing adds them, that'd be quite, I think that would be quite cool to see.
Yeah.
Heck.
Yeah, I think that's something further on into PAC's lifespan, but I think putting in the LMP1 now will really, I think, off-put the whole, because I think with LMP2 and GT3 we will have such a competitive class. The LMP2 field is bigger, so we will have more fights all around as that is way
That's
too
a-
wide onto the grass, and that will not give you any grip into the arm code. No, he keeps it out of there. So no harm done, I think.
That was a very, very close call there from PM Esports. If he would have missed it by a few meters, mate, that was close.
You can look at that again if you want to. Here we go.
As
do
we
you
said, the tricky turn one.
Yeah, what do you think? This is just braking too
I
late? I think it is just a case
There's
of
way
braking
too
late.
speed. There's way too much speed through that corner. There's no way he's going to make that. But there we are then, back to our topic of Daytona. It is very tricky coming off of that turn, coming off of the oval just after the start-stop line. You got to get that braking zone just right, because if you get it a bit wrong, as Rick did, unfortunately, you are going to go off, and it could end your race there. But luckily for him, he kept it out of the barrier, so that's all good.
Yeah, and a 1:43.7 is also not bad. We were down to the 1:42.9 yesterday. But yeah, a 1:43.7 as his first lap time is definitely not bad.
Our fastest time in LMP2 actually is a 1:33.6, so that's definitely faster than yesterday.
Yeah, like I said, the really fast guys will be down in the 1:32s consistently. But yeah, it all depends on track temperature. Like I said, we're doing this a little bit later on into the day in iRacing, so the track temp will go down, I think, a little bit more. So the track will get better once we go on. But yeah, that 1:33 is really because the track temp is way better and way more favorable than yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. Because you want to have, in iRacing, it's very weird, and you want to have a bit of a cooler temperature. Even in real life, though, if you've got like a 50-degree track, your tires aren't going to your tires aren't going to be very happy as he runs wide once again. That was braking zone, I think, that time, Dan. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, well, it seems like he's having difficulties with just turn 1 in general. The rest of the track, it seems to be quite good. We can get the sectors up as well if we want to. Here we go. Sector 1, not purple in his class. Oh, Sector 2 is purple though. So we might see a new fastest lap coming in.
Don't do the commentator's curse, Dan.
Yeah, well, yesterday, oh, look at that.
Purple sector 3 though, so.
But yesterday we had the camera curse. Just everyone we
yeah.
switched to, they either crashed or just stopped the car on the side of the track and returned to pits.
Yeah.
All camera shy.
What's that? Dan's got the camera on us again. Quick pit.
Yeah. They can't see us.
Well, while everyone else was, as we got purple sector 4, so that's gonna be good.
Through the chicane, not the best of runs on the entry.
But yeah, yesterday's practice session with either too camera shy or they were starving and trying to invade campers.
Oh man, the moment he went off, I was like, where are you going? That is surely gonna end on that
You smell
road.
some hot dogs.
Yeah.
You could smell them from the car. Just oh.
Can we
Right,
see
let's
the
see.
fastest lap coming in? The answer is no, we won't. A 1:44.01, so it's really sector 1, and again
was
running wide.
Yet again. Nearly spin there, I think, or maybe just correcting the car.
Yeah.
But you got to think though, these GTEs aren't like the GT3s. These don't have traction control or ABS, so they run similar lines to the LMP2. Not as similar, but because obviously they're not as aerodynamic because they're big chunky cars. But they will be running similar braking zones to the LMP2, and I wonder if maybe Rick is just running a bit too late braking zone, which is forcing him to go quite wide.
As I think he's now on a slow lap. This doesn't look anything like normal pace.
As he's warming his tyres up there, and he's got the LMP2 of my favourite team just behind him. Andrew Field set a purple sector 5 in the class.
He's also the fastest. We saw Andrew yesterday practicing with his teammate. He was towing up behind them the whole time, and I think they were doing some kind of just I think
They're probably
field
trying
practice?
to do car following.
Yeah, and just practice in dirty air and just fuel. So we have a mistake once again. Someone who's gone off track. Thomas Piba this time, and again turn 1. Of course it is turn 1.
Yeah, that was way
Oh.
too quick.
I have never seen an LMP1 car fly like that.
Well, now I have. Yeah, I think he was just carrying way too much speed through that corner.
And we
That's
said
the thing as well about turn 1 though. You gotta get the right speed in. It's good getting the right braking zone, but you gotta get that speed right. If you go too fast, then you're gonna just fly off the track. But if you go too slow, someone can gain loads of time on you.
yeah. And well, I think that's the thing that is most interesting is the way the different car runs just run into the first corner, because we saw, I think, Rick do a 16 2 times through sector 1. But like you can see now from Andrew, who's an absolute cracker, it looks like, green in sector 3, purple in sector 4. He does a 15.3, and he's in a practically slower car. I don't think the GTEs will be so much faster in a 15-second sector, but I think they will be down to a 15.0 something. But that just tells you how much time that Rick can still gain.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the GT3s though, you
New
got to remember
fastest
that
lap though, this one.
144.8.
Yeah, that was a new fastest lap. Just said it.
Oh,
Let's see who runs through the first sector. So 15.4. Okay, yeah, so they are looking to be around the 15.4, 15.3 mark for a good lap. But 44.8 is definitely a very quick lap time. And I think for come race day, I think this car is one of my favorites for the victory. Together, I think
it looks very competitive.
Yeah, together with, I think, the Tempest Motorsports Lamborghini, because that car is always in the mix.
Oh, that's a slight mistake there.
A little bit of an off. The one with the most laps turned currently in this practice session. Tono Ordieres from, I guess, Portugal, that is, for Kuruma Motorsports.
I have to say this. I do really like Daytona. It's a nice track once you get it right.
Oh yeah,
at
definitely.
least.
And
For the most part, though, it's quite a frustrating track when you're learning it. But once you get the hang of it, it's a really nice track to drive.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think just you can see definitely a very satisfying sector 1 time. But I think that time is all gained just the amount of speed that the car can carry through the first corner, because sector 1 is only really the first corner, and then the S's, but the S's is really just flatten every car. So I think the 9 or 8 tenths the LMP1 gains on a GTE in that sector is all in turn 1, and that tells you how much aero still is affecting the amount of speed of the car, as he now encounters traffic in the chicane, really close there. Well managed though by Ordieres. But
that could be an interesting spot for traffic come race day, though.
Definitely, and I think we will at least see one incident there happening with traffic in that.
Yeah, because the thing about traffic is the rules say that the faster car has to find a way around you, because it's safer. Because if you've got a GT3 car that's in front of you and you're following him, if he stays on his line, you know exactly where he's going to be. Whereas if he moves suddenly offline, that could cause a big collision.
Yeah. Well, it's just you can't predict if they have to go offline. You can't predict which way he's gonna go. So it's really a guessing game for you then. So, but you have those moments that the LMPs just have to take evasive action, because the GT just wants to be nice and wants to move away. And I think if you do it on entry, that is still possible for the LMP to change. But if you do it on exit and the LMP has already decided that it wants to go somewhere, it is for the LMP either just keeping their foot in or risking spinning the car. Because an immediate throttle or brake change in that car, it is so sensitive that when you do it too much or too fast, the car goes on you.
Yeah, well, the LMP2s are quite a car to drive once you get them right, but as you said, they are very sensitive. As there was that jump over the last bit of the Le Mans chicane there.
It looked like it. She hoppy.
But I love driving the LMP2s around this track, because it's just so satisfying. Just how much of the track you are flat to the floor with your right foot. It's actually unreal. It's basically Monza, but with ovals.
yeah. Well, I
Oh,
think
nice slide.
I think if this track did not have ovals, it would still be flat for these cars.
Definitely.
I don't think. Go on.
It's a fast swooping track as well, isn't it? It's got the style of it. It's got the very fast fast kind of like snake kind of, you know, where
Yeah,
you can sweep with fast corners.
left, right, left, right. It has a very natural flow to it. But of course,
Definitely.
off tracks is going to be a thing as well because we have an incident limit, and of course that has to be met by all the drivers. And you know, I think that come race day, the chicane, so the Le Mans chicane, is going to be a place where a lot of, I think, incident points are going to be stacked up by just going off track a little bit too much at picking up that incident point.
Yeah, for sure. I remember 24 Hours Le Mans this year when they had that they added the curb. iRacing added the curb very last second,
Yeah.
and they screwed everyone over. And now all of a sudden they've got rid of it again. It's just funny. How many people's Le Mans? Not Le Mans. Sorry, I keep 24. Oh, that's a bit off track there.
I think that's a slowdown,
Yeah. And
as you can hear.
yeah, how many people Daytonas that ruined, and then they realised, oh, big mistake, took it back out.
Well, I have driven that Daytona 24 hours. We came third. Big flex. But
Congrats.
thank you. But it for us it didn't really change that much. For the LMPs that was, but for the GTs it might have done. But
Because you get used. The thing about driving this track is though, because it's so complex. Well, it's not complex, but like it's so easy to make a mistake. You get used to driving one line. I remember after they'd removed the little sausage curb, I went back on it and I was, because you almost get scared of going on the right hand side of the when he goes through the
Yeah.
one. I'll show you where the sausage curb used to be for those that don't know. But you almost get scared to go to the right hand side because you're like, oh great, I'm gonna do a barrel roll. But that you get so used to driving the certain line that I realised, oh, I can actually take more of this curb now because it's all gone. But you know,
Yeah.
it's just adapting your driving style. Here we go. We're getting up to the Le Mans chicane now, as he's on the back oval.
I think yes. Here we go.
So as we come down now to Le Mans chicane, you can just see if you look on the right hand side. There.
If we go
That's
on
where
board, I
this
think
is-
next lap we will see it better.
There was a big sausage curb for anyone that didn't know. There was like it was humongous, wasn't it, Dan? It was
Yeah.
literally you couldn't touch it.
If you touched it, your car would, the right hand side of your car would jump up in the air like a meter up in the air, and the car would become you couldn't steer anymore. And you basically, if you touched it, you could close your eyes, and the car would, no matter what you did, just make a sharp right hand turn and just go into the wall, and your Daytona would be over.
Yeah, well, I finally took that line, and that is clearly the quicker line to take, because we got Eisbach sim racing team
Eibach.
over to. Yeah, I'm not good at German, okay? I think it's German anyway. Oh, was there
Yeah,
a
it is.
spin there? I heard from someone. This is quite an old track though, Dan. It
is.
opened originally in 1959 and obviously is the home of the Daytona 500 NASCAR.
Yeah, well, of course that's the outer loop because, of course, the NASCAR cars are humongous. They're chunky. But we're coming up to the Le Mans chicane once again. Do you want to show us where the sausage curb was?
Yeah, so as we come to the Le Mans chicane now, we've got the nice left-hander, nice right-hander, but then on the second right-hander, just here, this curb here, that's where the big sausage curb was, and if you touch that, you go straight into the wall on the right.
And you could see, of course, the sausage curbs on the left, right of the first part of the chicane, and then on the left-hand side on the exit as well, there was a big sausage curb. But the sausage curb, for some reason, on the curb on the right-hand side on the exit was just so much more aggressive that it was just unbelievable. It was placed in such a way that if you touched it, you would just fly up in the air and the car would be undrivable.
Practicing for the 24 hours of Daytona, I made so many mistakes touching that sausage curb.
Well,
I didn't unfortunately get to race the 24 hours of Daytona because I had something to do. But yeah, I would have loved to race I would have loved to race it. But doing practice, I would just made so many mistakes just touching the sausage curb. And that's a spin there.
We kept it.
Oh, he saved it. That was very good actually. I enjoyed watching that.
Well, I have to say that I didn't really. Of course, you knew that if you. I've touched it once. That is all. That is everything. Just I haven't touched that curb more than once, because the amount of downforce that we were running, it created a natural understeer mid chicane as well. So here we were fine, here we were fine, and then here it started understeering. So we would always turn in earlier, scrub the front tires a bit. It was not easy on the front tires, but we could do it on just tire wear over 4 stints. 3 stints daytime, 4 nighttime. But we had that natural understeer, so we would scrub the tires a little bit, and we would naturally get into the rhythm. And if you do that enough times, which I did from the beginning, even though the curb wasn't there, we had that understeer, so we just understeered away from that curb ever so slightly, and there was just every time there was like 10 centimeters or 5 centimeters between the front right tire and that curb. It was so scary. Every time you did go through the Le Mans chicane, it was so scary.
Yeah, because you definitely don't want to be touching that curb. It's like the one thing that you can use curbs in this track. Obviously, it's a very curb pro track, but you don't want to be touching that one, or otherwise you can say hello to the Daytona wall, which is painted lovely with the Daytona wording on it.
Yeah, and well, of course you said it's very, you can cut a lot of the curves, but that's only really in the Le Mans chicane. The track that is just where you that is cut curb heaven is the track where the 6 hours were on last weekend. Watkins Glen, that is just curb cutting heaven.
Oh, yeah, it is definitely. I like Watkins Glen as well. That was actually where I did my first iRacing special event, was Watkins Glen last year.
Yeah. Well, talking about Watkins Glen then, the IMSA series, just the American WEC, the tracks they go to, I have to say, they attract me so much more than the WEC just tracks, because Silverstone, great track, but don't really have a lot with it with endurance racing. Spa is a good track, Le Mans is a good track, and Sebring is a good track. But all the other tracks, is like endurance racing on them. Fuji, I don't know why it's not on the calendar anymore. It is an amazing track to do endurance racing on. But it just, yeah, I don't know.
I need to wound up. Oh god, why isn't it on there?
As we see Platinum Racing Team GT3, I think it's Thijs Merkster in that car, improving to 3rd. So he's finding some time. Look at that gap, 0.003 of a second to P2 or to P4 Bikes Online DS Racing. So close. Never mind, back to P4 they go.
They've gotten ahead now. But the thing about GT3 and GTE is they're so similar cars. As we can tell by the lap time. Oh, never mind, we can't now. But when he did a 43, the fastest lap last time in GTE, it was so close to the GT3 class with the 144.7 that these cars are actually, I think we've seen it before, haven't we, Dan, in the PEC races? GTEs lapping GT3s is very difficult because it's mainly the straights where the GTE actually can get past, because these cars are so similar, whereas the LMP2 just flies past. But both of the GT categories, they're just so similar that it's going to be very difficult when it comes to race day for lapping with the GTEs.
Yeah, well, if you can just, in a moment, next lap we can take a moment of silence, because this car is out on track once again. We're going to go on board with it, and I'm going to crank up the volume, so we won't be able to hear you for a second, Jake, but we will be able to hear the sounds of this beautiful, just this beautiful BMW. I mean, the sound of this car, the GT3 already sounds amazing, but this car, wow.
I love the M8 GTE.
Yeah, I do as well. So once we get over start finish next time, we are going to give you a lap around this circuit on board with the BMW.
I love the livery as well that they've got.
Yeah, I do as well. Well, I'll mute you real quick. A lap around this circuit. Well then, that was a lap around this beautiful Daytona circuit. Jake, welcome back.
As you see, a slight mistake there from T3 Motorsport.
We do. I hope you
Great
could
race
hear
car.
me when I muted you.
Pardon?
Could you hear me when I muted you?
No, I was too busy not sitting in the dark.
Well, back to the pit lane he goes, sadly, because that car sounds amazing. And we have decided that, or I have now decided that we will cover another hour of this practice session and then we will draw it to a close because it'll be 12 p.m. then for us. And tomorrow we have a broadcast as well. We have the MX-5 and we have, or no, tomorrow will be nothing because it will start at 12 p.m. So tomorrow will be no coverage of the practice session, but on
Winners for the PRL League Mazda MX-5 Cup.
Yeah.
Starting at 6, I want to say. My time, GMT 6.
7 CET.
Where me and Dan will provide you with amazing entertainment for the whole qualifying and race.
I hope so.
I'm going to only be here since I have stuff to do tomorrow, so I'm going to be here for another 25 minutes and then I have to go, unfortunately.
Yeah, which is all good. You've been here with me for 1.5 hours.
4 minutes.
And it has been a cracking practice up until now. We've seen some interesting things happen, and I think we've seen a lot of teams practicing things that we did not expect. Like yesterday, the towing from both Fields Academy Motorsports Porsches. I think it was Rui Queiroz and
Spin on the back straight, so just cut in there. Austrian Sim Racers Blue had a little spin in the LP2 class.
that could be. Let me take a look at that. Where do we have it? Anyways, we have
Just
this.
where we are now. Oh, and there's
Benedict
another
Hoffleitner.
spin.
Oh, No, that is ESR Blue there in a big fight still for P2 in the championship with PRT. PRT Blue.
This could be a good race. This is the last race of season 1, and this may have been the spin that I saw. Yeah, just loses.
Oh, another one there.
Yeah, just loses the back end. That is a very tricky corner though to lose it. That is very easy done. Going because it's that change of elevation that we were talking about earlier, Dan, isn't it? Going through back onto the oval bit, and it's sometimes in the LMP2 especially, if you put your foot down a bit too early, then it's obviously going to cost you, as we saw. Sadly for ASR Blue.
It's not only gonna cost you time in the corner, but it's gonna cost you time, and that is, I think, the most frustrating time to lose, for me at least, when I'm racing, is the time I lose when I look at the delta and I'm on a straight and I can't do anything about it, and the time just drops down, and you can't do anything about it.
There's a lot of correction there from IBAC sim racing there.
Yeah.
From Alexander in the LMP2 there.
Yeah, a little bit unstable as we see now the ASR blue car coming out right behind them. Benedict Hochlight now, he hasn't set a lap time yet, but I expect he's gonna do that very soon. But he has all kind of troubles with handling that LMP2 car.
Maybe back to the garage and some setup changes by the looks of things.
Might be needed.
As he goes back onto the oval bit. This is where he had a spin earlier, if you remember, just a few laps ago. But he seemed to have got it right that time.
Seems like he's a little bit easier on applying the throttle this time.
Well, that's the thing, Dan. When you go onto the oval part of the track, it's all about how you throttle the car, because these LMP2s are very easy to lose control of and lock up, and spin. So it's all about how careful you are. You have to basically treat these LMP2 cars like a baby. You can't be too rough, or else they'll get hurt. So you gotta just be careful with the throttle, especially that change in elevation, because any car really, Dan, is going to unsettle it if you floor it going up the bank of Daytona. And it doesn't look it on the screen right now, but Daytona bank is very steep.
Oh yeah,
so
it is.
Going up that going up the bank, it's going to be very unsettling for the car.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing we will see with Benedict here is that he needs just a few laps. I think that was also something with cold tires that spin in the first lap, but or on his out lap. But I think he's good now. I think he's now gonna set his first lap time.
Would you like to talk us through the rest of the lap, what we have remained?
Well, coming into the National Horseshoe then, out of it, onto turn 6, onto the banking, and we can show you now how steep that banking is. If we go onto this camera, you will see now how much the car will turn for us, and see how steep that is. And I said yesterday multiple times, you will have difficulties just walking up this banking. That is how steep it is. Into the Le Mans chicane now, braking at around about the yellow marker on the right there, down to third. You can take second here, but that will just give you a lot of oversteer on the exit, and you run into the limiter very early. Then onto the second long straight. You have time to check your social media here. It's not advised by the race direction, but you do have time if you want to, because this straight goes on and on and on forever. And that provides a lot of good overtaking opportunities into the corner that is coming up now. We start from the middle part of the track, so I'll get you through this part as well. First corner, you can run out really wide into first gear. I always found when I did that I got too much oversteer, so I preferred second, then into the S's, flat this, into fourth, down to, I think, second, maybe first here for the right-hander, the International Horseshoe. Out of it we go, a little bit of oversteer there, and that is what you get with just the car being in first. That is why I always took second there, just being careful for the tires and race trend. And back to the National Horseshoe we are. That was a lap around Daytona International Speedway road course.
That camera angle was awesome going over the oval part.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was the gyro, so that moves with the banking, you know. So it keeps straight while the car moves into the banking. It stays like on a flat level, if you know what I mean. But I think Benedict is now getting more comfortable with the car, and I think we will see that lap time drop. I think even this lap. A 1:36.17 was his last lap time. Let's see what the sectors say. Green sector 1, but the rest really improving.
I'm not sure if ASR Blue were here yesterday.
Oh yes, they were, but it wasn't Benedict Hochleitner in that car. It was,
Oh,
I think, someone else. So Benedict is the first one, or it's the first time for him being out there. And we have Vincent Ossems in the Platinum Racing Team LMP2 blue car out there as well. So I think we will see that fastest lap time go down even more in a little bit. As we see there, that is an improvement there from Benedict, but only by a little bit. 2.4 seconds still off.
36 dead.
Yeah,
Oh,
2.4 still off.
Oh, and that's
Again,
that
almost
was
going around. This is not going to help his lap time, but Vincent Ossems for Platinum Racing Team LMP2 Blue still in the pits. Francesco Santos Pereira is out there for Digital Spirit DS Racing.
Vincent Ossems has just come out the pits.
So I'll be interesting to see, because it was Winston Eckel who had the fastest lap yesterday in the LMP2 class, but it was this Vincent Ossems who was just 2.5 tenths behind that. So I'll be interested to see what he can do. Normally Vincent is someone who takes 2 or 3 laps and then he's on the pace immediately. And Winston is just someone who he comes out of the pit lane. He's kind of like, as you can see, that is, like I said, Winston is someone who's like Max Verstappen. He can just come out of the pits and be immediately on pace.
I have to say though, I do like the LMP2 livery of Platinum Racing Team.
LMP2 Blue.
It's very nice.
Because remember, they have 2 different teams in the LMP2 category. So they have orange and they have blue, but the blue livery I prefer like more than the orange. The orange car, I think, retired from the championship back in Interlagos after that race, but due to a driver shortage. But I think that is why Thijs Merckx is now in the Platinum Racing Team GT3 car.
Very nice lines through here on his opening lap. Go onto the banking once again.
And remember, he has still cold tires, so that car is edgy as beep.
As beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, I'm not as famous as him, sadly. As we see now, PM Esports 1:42.019. That
car
way
is
quicker
very
than we've
quick.
seen yesterday. Like we've seen in all the other classes. Apart from GT3, really, the 1:44.9 we saw yesterday, it hasn't really been beaten by a lot.
No, definitely not.
And it was
Sorry,
the same car, same driver who was out there, so yeah. Be interesting to see what he can do.
Practice 2 is mainly just getting used to the track even more. You've got practice 1 for it, but practice 2 you're starting to think about lap times now. Not really evidence of that, but we do have many more practices to come before race day and quali.
Yeah. Well, the quali runs I will be interested to see. Do you, if we have the optimal temperatures, do you expect someone to drop below the 130s in the LMP2 class?
I think it could be possible, considering how close we are now. We're only 3.5 seconds off 130, and we're only like what, maybe 4 seconds. Yeah, we are 4 seconds off 129. So it would be interesting to see. Don't get me wrong, but I reckon maybe 131's are the lowest we could get.
Yeah. Well, as we see so often, it is usually one team in qualifying that is on top and in the race. We of course haven't been able to broadcast the British Endurance GP, but it is just Tempest Sim Sports that has been on top, and I will have to ask Monix for information about that, but it could be the case that they have led every lap at Silverstone as well, and that would mean that they have a record of leading full 24 hours. An 8-hour race, a 10-hour race,
0.4 for
and a 6-hour race.
Vincent Ossams.
Yeah, and I think that lap time will go down.
Are just on it. They've led pretty much, depending on Silverstone, but they've led the last 4 races.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it is very interesting to see those guys are just so talented. And, I mean, you don't see it often that people are so dominant in a league. They lost all their points. Don't forget that. They changed teams. Well, it stayed the same team, but they technically changed teams. So they lost points, and they gained that back, and they're at the top of the standings once again, and they are almost champion. I think they need they only need to finish at Daytona to be champion.
That is definitely interesting, as we see Vincent Ossams a bit jumpy over the curbs, but these LMP2s do tend to be quite jumpy.
Yeah. Where do you think Vincent can go to in terms of lap time?
I think he's gonna maybe hit 132s, knowing Vincent.
Yeah. Well, I think 132s is a little bit too much still in this temperature. Remember, it is still 39 degrees. So I think a 133.2 is I think the lap time he will be aiming for. Another improvement, not a lot, but improving by 2.5 hundredths of a second, which is still something.
It is.
It's an improvement nonetheless. But I think he's doing a race run as well.
Well, that's what most of them will be doing. Race runs, just to see how they can handle the car. Because you tend to have different setups for quali and race as well. So maybe run quali, I don't know, maybe you definitely run less fuel for quali. But maybe some like slight changes to the car as well, but mainly the same for the race. But the race, obviously, you've got loads more fuel. But those will be the things to look out for, because the thing with fuel is it just makes the car so much more heavy than it needs to be. So for qualifying, they just basically drain the tank, and they do their qualifying runs, and then they pit for more fuel, because I don't think it'd be ideal if they all stopped on track. So
Yeah.
so they come in for their fuel, but then for the race, obviously you're gonna fill it not as much as you can, because you're still gonna be losing so much time. But considering it's an endurance race and you've got 12 hours to go, it will be a lot more. Because if you're someone who mainly watches Formula 1, you'll know that they tend to, you know, keep their fuel tanks maybe like half race fuel or something like that. Whereas endurance racing, you want to fill it up quite a bit, because you want to last like 2-3 hours on one stint. Wouldn't you say that, Dan? Like 2-hour stints these guys will be doing
On fuel?
just in race in general.
But
But not 2 hours
depends.
on fuel. How long will fuel last around here? What is it?
Normally in the LMP cars it will last around 40 seconds, as Vincent knows he's on the stream, so he blinks with his lights. Very nice from Vincent there.
Yeah, so
I think around 40 minutes is the ultimate you can get out of a fuel tank in an LMP2. And the GTs, both GTEs and GT3s, will be looking around about 1 hour 5 minutes.
it's funny though how much different endurance racing is to Formula 1, because you know Formula 1 you're sat there for 70 laps or so and you want to push as much as you can, whereas endurance racing it's a bit more chillaxed, you know. It's not as chillaxed, obviously, you're not just like sat there having a drink, but you know, you're trying to push as much as you can, but you've got a lot more time, if you know what I mean. You've got 12 hours these guys will have on Saturday to try and get the most out of the car and try win.
Yeah. Well, the cars are built differently as well. Of course, Formula One cars, you can build them to a much riskier spec, if you get what I mean. You can make them less reliable than these cars. These cars have to last for. Oh, you see a mistake there. Another one being a victim of just turn one.
Give
But-
them one a nickname.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just the cars. These LMP2s are built so differently. They're a little bit more sloppy because they need to last sometimes for 24 hours. Just they need to keep going for 24 hours long straight. And with a Formula 1 car, you do not have that problem. But I think something interesting to see. We have a debutant this practice session, not as team but as car. Iwan Bremer, his first laps out on track. We know Iwan. He races in the FBL community as well. Does a lot of endurance racing. So he is experienced in it. And what do you say?
I'm still being quite quick.
Yeah.
142.0.
Yeah, we'll see what Ewan can do. His last lap time was a 142.3, and this lap time a 156.1. So a long way off, as we can see.
one too.
We saw, of course, that his teammate had difficulties with that as well. Is it just that? Might it just be that car that it is just so unstable into turn one?
Maybe. I mean, we have seen some LMP2s as well go off there. So, oh, and that's a bit. Well, that's very wide. Going out of turn 4 or 5 there.
You don't want to be there.
No, definitely not. That is not the ideal place.
It's not the fastest place.
No, definitely not. No, what you on about? It's the quickest line.
Well, you know what is quickest? Driving with socks, man.
Oh, not this conversation again.
No, but like I wanted to point out yesterday to James something, but we didn't get to there because it stopped once again at the conversation about the socks and everything. That we just race in socks or just things like that. But I think that these drivers all, not only if you do a 12-hour race, because I find that myself, if you're with 3 for a 12-hour race, it's gonna get tough. You all 3 need to do at least 4 hours, or at least 2 or 3, and if one does 3, another has to do 6, or the other 2 have to do 5. And although you are in your sim at home, it is very physical. So I don't think these guys will only be working on their race car and everything. I think they'll be working on themselves as well.
Definitely. Because even though you are just sat at home and you're not being thrown around in the car like you would in the normal real life car, it is still a challenge to stay away. And it gets very hot as well when you're sim racing.
Oh yeah, it does. Especially when it's like 37 degrees outside.
Yeah. It's been very hot the last few weeks in Britain, and I assume in Netherlands as well.
Yeah. Well,
There
39
is the
degrees track temp.
So quite a bit cooler than yesterday's practice session.
Yeah. It is a constant temp though, it looks like, but that will be going down, I think, in a little moment. As we can see, the sun going down, but it is behind cloud cover, so not really able to see the sun go down. Those stupid clouds are behind it. So sad.
Thick clouds.
Well, it is. I think it is very interesting to see how iRacing does the day-night transition, or just transition, because a lot of games have it, but I think iRacing is, to be honest, made one of the best ones.
I like the way that they do it, and especially like the cloud movement as well. Like now the sun's come back out.
Yeah.
I just think it's very, very realistic, you know. Apart from some of the driving styles, but we don't get into that.
At least they've got one thing right.
Yeah, they've got the weather right.
I have a mistake here for you from Philip Bauer. What is he up to? Let's see. Going way too wide once again. Oh, touching the grass. Yeah, you're done. onto the ice grass, into the barrier, and done. Ivan Bremer
That may have been
made a mistake himself.
Oh, that is definitely not a good looking car.
Definitely not.
I
Vincent
think he
Ossem
must be
though.
thinking that he
That he
won a bit too early.
Oh, we saw this
Oh.
one.
Yeah. But that the Porsche doing it, I think, was practicing for his winning moments. If he wins.
Just way too late on the brakes. Oh, and a snap. That snap did it. If he did not
Yeah.
have that snap, then I think he would be absolutely fine.
Well, these cars do get loose very quickly.
Especially on the outlabs on cold tires, don't you think so?
I hate LMP2s and cold tires. They're just horrible.
Here he is, Philip Bauer. New out on track. Interesting to know, mate. This that Vincent Ossem still is currently set at a 134.44. So he hasn't really been able to improve, which I did not expect. Seems like that that 133.55 is quite a quick lap time.
Yeah, well, once you get the track right and you got your braking zones nailed and lines done, then tracks suddenly become a lot easier. As there is a UK crane flag I've just noticed on the rear wing of that LMP2 there.
That is always great, thinking about what is going on in the world. Of course, we don't want to go into that too deep, but
It's the place for happiness.
well,
I do like that livery though. I like the purple and black of it.
okay, I'm not gonna say that, but I'm gonna tell you that one after the podcast. But yeah, it is a way to I think express your thoughts without actually saying it. So you would be, I think, politically correct if you are looking after that. But yeah, I think it's it's nice to see them paying tribute to it.
Yeah, as they do a 134.9 there.
On 34.9. Oh yeah, that is a personal improvement. Should I get this up for you guys? And you guys can at least see the time. Here we have at the moment all the cars out on track. There you go. This is the overall standings. Doesn't look vastly different from the group, but you can see all the cars now. These are also all the cars we have had out on track. So not a lot of cars, excuse me, out on track at the moment. As I do need to, there are still drivers, and this is what I found so interesting. There are still drivers new to this season, because we've got none on P6 right now, and I don't think that's correct. And I think that is the YS Motorsports blue car.
Yeah, they have joined the session.
We will see that in a second. Oh no, that is the red.
No, it is YS Motorsports blue.
There we go.
But they have set a lap time though.
Yeah, they did. But their name was just none because they were not in the SDK file. Ivan Bremer out again on track.
There's a spin for Rapid E-Racing Team Purple there, just as you cut from them. There we go, we can have a look at it again. Just way too much speed and just the car's gone.
Oh no, that looked like just the rear stepping out a little bit. We can go back a little bit into that. I like to do this sometimes. We can go on board if we can get it. No, that is just
snap.
Too early on throttle, I think. You can hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, first gear. That is what it is. Into first gear too early.
We were talking about that earlier, weren't we, Dan? We were
Yeah.
talking about how first gear isn't very ideal for turn 1.
Yeah, well, that is what I said, and that is why I don't take first gear into the horseshoe, or into the first corner, or into the second horseshoe. I think it's just you create way too much oversteer, and I do not like it.
Well, Dan, it's been amazing an hour and a half, but unfortunately I do have to, this is where I have to leave you for now. Hope the rest of the stream goes well, and thank you everyone who's tuned in tonight to watch practice 2 for Daytona. I will see you guys tomorrow for the Platinum Racing League Mazda's MX-5s. See you then.
Well, it was amazing to have Jake here this evening. I hope you're all enjoying it. We have half an hour, 29 minutes of the broadcast left, and then we will cut it off because well, we need to as well catch sleep. We wanted to make it special this last race of the season, so that's why we are broadcasting this stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you do, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new here, because that would very much help us out at Platinum Racing League. The link to Discord is in the description, so if you want to watch it or you want to take part in races yourself, the link is in the Discord. And if you join, the guys will lead you through everything, and you will be guided on your way to your first outing in a PRL session. Right then, looking with Philippe Bauer in 5th. This Rapid E-Racing Team Purple car, I think it's still in with a shot at something very, very great. The standings at the moment for this car look actually quite good. They are in 4th place. They are 3 places behind ASR Blue. And I lied earlier on in the stream. They are not. ASR Blue is not in a fight with Platinum Racing Team LMP2 Blue. They are in a fight with Rapid E-Racing Team Purple and Cardboard Blue. I haven't seen the Cardboard Blue car out on track yesterday and today, so they might do it later on this week. But yeah, that is the fight there, and 3 points between it. So 3 points to the good for ASR Blue. But looking at the pace now from Benedict Hochleitner, now that could be gone really, really quickly, because Benedict seems to be struggling at the moment. He is half a second slower every lap than Philippe Bauer in the Rapid E-Racing Team Purple car. Although they both set new fastest lap times, a 1:34.88 for Philippe Bauer and a 1:35.44 for Benedict Hochleitner. And I hope that T3 Motorsports BMW can just finish on a high, because I absolutely love having at least one different manufacturer apart from a Porsche in this season. And it's, like I said, sad to see the GTE field go, but I think it had to be done. We only had 2 sign-ups, and GT3 and LMP2 are already full, so I think it was the wise decision to make to just get rid of the GTEs and make the GT3 and LMP2 field a bit bigger. And I think that is going to pay off in the racing standards. Benedict Hochleitner improves again, a 1:35.34. Is the track time going down maybe? Is that why the times are improving? 36 degrees, yes, the track time is going down. So I think we will see some faster lap times coming in soon. Maybe just before the end of the broadcast, the track times will go down into that 20s. And we will see maybe a 32 in the LMP2 class. The Fields Academy Motorsports Porsche though, 2 tenths faster than, or 1.5 tenths faster than they were yesterday, with the track temp almost being 20 degrees lower. So that is I expected them to be a little bit faster, to be honest. Oh, as he turns sharp right into the wall. And what was that? Was that just steering wheel failure, maybe? I don't really know, but it didn't look like it was on purpose. As Vincent Ossems also go wide. Do we have the camera shy thing again? Just to everyone we go, they crash out or something. Ivan Brema again with a little bit of an off-track excursion here. Oh, and again turn one claims another victim. Bauer at another moment here into turn one. This is the one we saw, and that is just the first gear incident. And I do not like to take first through there. And why is that? Because, like you see, it creates so much oversteer all of a sudden in the car. And on exit, you can't really get on the throttle because otherwise you're gonna run into the rev limiter, or you're just gonna spin up the rear wheels. That is why I usually stayed in second and just let the car drift out to the outside on exit. But that is just every driver's style, so that is what they prefer. But it's good to see. It's 11:30 here, just a little bit past 11:30 here in the Netherlands and in the rest of Europe. And it is good to see that there are still this many drivers out on track. How many cars do we still have on track? Still 5 cars out on track. That is better than we were doing yesterday. Of course, yesterday got interrupted by iRacing putting out an update because they had database issues. But yeah, Digital Spirit DS Racing, this BMW going up into P2, just a little bit under 3/10 off of the fastest lap time in that class at the moment. It is Francisco Santos Pereira in that car. So let's see if he can maybe get down to a 1:44.6. Digital Spirit DS Racing is a car that, if we look at the championship, Digital Spirit DS Racing, 5th in the championship, not really anything to play for, but of course they have to finish well in order for them to keep their 5th place. But yeah, they just have to do better than they did last time out. And we have also, I think, SR Technic Bikes Online DS Racing. They are 3rd in the GT3 AM class, and they do still have a 2nd place to fight for. 19 points in between them. That is a lot, but I think still very, very doable. As we have 5 minutes left of this broadcast. Do you have any questions? Feel free to pop them in chat, and I will quickly answer the last few of them. It'll be interesting to see. Crips Racing is the only car that is crowned champion in the GTE AM field. So I think we will see the GTE field without AMs. Crips Racing will definitely be in it. I think they will be racing here at the 12 Hours of Daytona. I think a lot of teams will do so. Vincent, pasta or pizza? Then I'm gonna have to go with pasta. Definitely. It is a very difficult choice, I have to say, because it's both delicious, but I'm gonna have to go with pasta. Pasta carbonara, though. If we just have normal pasta, then I will go with a pizza. Oh, or a pizza quattro formaggi. Oh my god. Now you've left me with a very difficult question to answer. But yeah, I'm gonna keep with my answer. I'm gonna go for pasta. Very in-depth question though, Vincent. Shouldn't you be driving? Shouldn't you be driving, Vincent? You need to practice, I can see. Almost a second off of my favorite team. I'm just joking, Vincent, don't get me wrong. Hopefully in this last 3 minutes, iRacing doesn't put out an update once again. So we get interrupted. But definitely a good pasta. Loving it. Yeah, you did. I saw it. But clearly not enough since you're still a second off. Oh, you, okay, so you didn't like it. I hope it isn't going to be like that in the race for the team as well. If Vincent just doesn't like it, he's just going to park it and exit and escape back to pit lane. And once again, the GT cars are the last cars out on track, 3 cars out on track, so I think it's a perfect time to end it in a few minutes' time. Ivan Brema still having difficulties with turn 1. Fuel saving strats, yes, that looks to be very important for the LMP2 field, Vincent. Thank you for stopping by the way, Vincent. Apart from driving, Vincent keeps himself busy with looking at Platinum Racing League races in his free time. Well, then into the Le Mans chicane once again. Let's see how these GTEs get through here. As we can see once again here, how steep that banking is. Look at how steep it is. And it looks even steeper in a GTE car. Oh yeah, definitely. It's the best place to compete in. It's the best place to find competitive races, to find good competitive races. Like we see Iwan here keeping it in second for just the stability of the car on exit. And I would do exactly the same. But well then, we have come to an end of this broadcast. I am sadly gonna have to close it off now. Everyone, thanks for stopping by. It's been amazing once again. Tomorrow won't be the practice broadcasted, because we have the debut of the Mazda MX-5 season. So be sure to watch that. 7 PM Central European time will the practice session start, so around 8 PM Central European time will be the start of the broadcast with a little bit of practice, qualifying, and a 15-minute and a 30-minute race. So a lot of racing to do. So yeah, I'll definitely be looking forward to that. Together with Jake, I think we will have an amazing spectacle out there on track tomorrow. So be sure to join us for that tomorrow. Until then, and until tomorrow, from me, from Jake, from all the drivers in pack, like I always say, stay safe.